Okay, so the recording has now started, and I will now hand over to the chair of the subcommittee, Councillor Ajda Ovat.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Licensing Subcommittee today, the 7th of February. My name is Councillor Ajda Ovat and I'm the Chair of Licensing. Before we begin, if I can have those present to introduce themselves, starting with the councillors on the committee and then the officers. Firstly, I'll start with the introduction. I'm Councillor Ajda Ovat, Member for Northumberland Park Ward and Chair of Licensing. Members, if you can now introduce yourselves.
Councillor Lester Buxton, Crouch End Ward.
Councillor Nick Da Costa, Highgate Ward.
Now, officers, if you can introduce yourselves.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dale Barrett, Licensing Team Leader.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. I'm Jennifer Barrett, nuisance. Oh, sorry.
Jennifer, we'll get to you when we come to the speaking. I'll just ask for legal and for the clerk to introduce themselves. But thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sadiqul Rahman, legal officer for Haringey.
Good evening, I'm Nazia Chowdhury, Principal Committee Coordinator and Clerk to this committee.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Abby Laywola, another legal officer from Haringey.
Thank you, Abby. Okay, so now with the first item of the agenda, filming at meetings, please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available for public viewing. Are there any apologies for absence?
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any items of urgent business?
No items received, Chair.
Thank you. Do members have any declarations of interest? Thank you. The procedure for the meeting has been emailed to all participants by the clerk. For the purposes of any members of the public watching, we will first hear from the licensing officer. After that, the review applicant will present their case to the subcommittee. The subcommittee, premises license holder and objectors to the review will have the opportunity to ask questions. Then the supporters for the review applicant will present their case. The subcommittee, premises license holder and objectors to the review will have the opportunity to ask questions. After the premises license holder will present their case, the subcommittee, the review applicant and review applicant supporters will have the opportunity to ask questions. Finally, the supporters for the premises will present their case. The subcommittee, the review applicant and review applicant supporters will have the opportunity to ask questions. All parties will then have the opportunity to sum up, and then the meeting will conclude to allow the subcommittee to deliberate and reach a decision. This decision will then be provided in writing within 5 working days of this meeting. Additionally, I'm going to note the ground rules for this remote hearing. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. Please ensure your cameras are open and that you are muted when you're not speaking. If you have technical difficulties, please use the chat function. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the committee. We will take all papers as read unless there is anything you wish to draw our attention to. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated time unless you request for an extension of time, which is at the discretion of the chair. Please do not share addresses of speakers, and in the event that there be several speakers for each party, please avoid repetition and perhaps consider having a spokesperson to address all concerns. Before we move on to the next item, I understand that both the review applicant and premises license holder have requested to speak for 20 minutes. I will allow collective time of 20 minutes each for both the review applicant and the premises license holder. I hope that is okay for both parties.
Thank you.
Okay, in terms of the supporters for the review applicant and the supporters for the premises license holder, I can see that we have several supporters present on both sides. Given the limited time we have and to avoid any repetition, can I suggest that we have a spokesperson or a few speakers to address all concerns, bearing in mind that the panel have read papers and there will be an opportunity to address other parties during the questioning and in summary. So in light of this, can I have a show of hands as to who will be speaking on behalf of the support for the review applicant?
If possible, can I raise my hand as well? Sorry, you can't see me, Chair.
Yep, so it's Andy.
Ian Sygrave.
Oh, Ian Sygrave. I think I see Andy Cheetle.
That's right.
Deborah Potts.
Yeah, I just want to say I want we've decided Andy is the best person
Okay.
to represent us. Yeah.
Okay, so Andy, Ian, and Councillor Brabazon.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Any more? Or we'll have just the three, yeah? If that's okay with the supporters. Okay. All right. So in terms of the supporters for the premises license holder, who wishes to speak, bearing in mind, as I said, to avoid any repetition, let me just see. I think I see Rachel Lee.
I was just speaking on behalf of the supporters, saying that I was happy with the spokespeople. Thank
Okay.
you.
Do you wish to speak, Rachel?
No, I'm happy with the 3 that have been selected. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. Okay. I mean,
Sorry,
Rachel,
Chair.
Rachel, I think you're for the premises license. So I'm asking supporters of the premises license. So I think you're one of them.
Sorry,
Oh,
were you
apologies.
sorry, were you
okay,
asking us
thank
to
you.
put up our hands for support?
Yeah, so who wants to be the spokesperson? I mean, we've got 3 speakers for the review applicant. So if there's 3 of you from the supporter side that wishes to speak, so I can see
Okay,
Vasily.
yeah, I can speak. Thank you. Vasily.
Vasily. Anyone else? Rachel, did you want to speak?
Yep, I can speak.
Rachel. One more person who's here in support of the premises license who wishes to speak?
I think Moni, Chair, is trying to speak, but I think, Moni, you've got your microphone on mute.
Okay, I'll add Moni. Is it Manuela Salieva? Is that correct, the full name? Okay, Manuela Salieva. Okay, so we've got 3 supporters speaking for the review application and 3 speaking for the supporting for the premises license. Is it okay if I give a collective time of 10 minutes for each side? Are all parties fine with that? This is for the supporters. Yeah. Is there agreement?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just. So that will give around 3 minutes each speaker.
I can start first if you can't.
Well, I'll get to you. I'll let you know when it's your turn to speak, but it'll be a collective 10 minutes for all the speakers, around 3 minutes each. Okay, so since we've now agreed on the timings, I'll now move on to the 6th item, which is the application for review of a premises license at Racas 365 to 369 Green Lanes, London, N8. Miss Barrett, please can you introduce the report?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, so the panel have before them an application for the review of the existing premises license at Racas at 365 to 369 Green Lanes. The review is submitted by the ASB Enforcement Noise Responsible Authority. And at 1.2, Chair, is the summary of the review received that the operation of the premises has failed to uphold and promote the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance on the licensing objectives. The application raises concerns that the provision of entertainment and the use of the shisha lounge area at the rear of the premises is causing a nuisance to members of the public. Non-compliance with the current licence conditions. The shisha smoking area is not managed to comply with the provisions of the Health Act, and council officers have been prevented or delayed from accessing the premises to check compliance. The application form submitted by the RA can be found at Appendix A, and this includes emails to Mr. Toprak from the licensing service with warnings of the need to comply with the conditions, as well as warnings and witness statements from ASB, the ASB team also. There's a copy of the current license at Appendix B of the pack. The premises is a restaurant which is authorised to provide regulated entertainment, late night refreshment, and the supply of alcohol. Its main activity is the provision of shisha that takes place at the rear. You'll know, Chair, from the licence that the premises does have the condition relating to the external area at the rear being closed and cleared of customers by 9 p.m. The LSE, the committee would note that there are documents and footage that have been submitted relating to the entertainment that is also being provided. Should point out that this is being done, whilst it's not mentioned on the licence, it's being done under the exemption, so under section 177A of the Licensing Act. So they're able to provide the regulated entertainment that takes place on site. But obviously, we're in this review situation, so the panel's discretion is engaged on this matter, as pointed out there at section 1.5, Chair. At 1.6, there's a little bit more background in terms of the provision of regulated entertainment and how section 177A should be viewed. And at 1.7, Chair, there is information there relating to the Health Act, just to make clear, of course, that shisha smoking itself is not a licensed activity, but the area that the activity is being carried out in is part of the licensed ambit of the premises, and so the panel's discretion is engaged on this matter. In terms of recommendations, Chair, at section 2, the panel may decide, after hearing from all the parties, to modify the conditions of the licence, or to exclude a licensed activity from the scope of the licence, or to remove the designated premises supervisor, or to suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months, or to revoke the licence. Whichever option is taken, the committee is clear that they must provide clear reasons as to how they arrived at that particular decision. Chair, at section 3, you have the background details. So just very quickly, 369 Green Lanes, which was the original Rakas, was licensed in March 2012. It then changed hands. In January 2014, we have Mr. Ali Ozbek, who applied and varied the conditions on the license there. That was partially accepted, that variation. And then as we go on, in September 2016, a review was initiated by the noise team under Mr. Ozbek's management. And again, that was relating to noise and nuisance and ongoing issues there, Chair. That license was later, I believe, revoked by the council's licensing subcommittee. That was then followed up here in February 2021 by a new license. Sorry, in February 21, the license held by Mr. Ozbek was revoked, Chair. A new application was received in June 2021 by Mr. Toprak, although Mr. Ozbek is still the actual ratepayer for those properties for this business. The current Rakas is said to be a restaurant. It does provide regulated entertainment and late night refreshment. There is within the pack, Chair, the various notices from the previous application, both for the 2021, the new application, and also most recently, Chair, within the pack is the variation resolution from a week or so ago. Chair, just to make clear, please, that the premises itself, there are ongoing issues around planning permission, and whilst not strictly, for this particular committee to consider, but just to note, Chair, as stated in section 3.8 of the report there, relating to the ongoing issues there, and at 3.2. Chair, I'm trying to race you through this. So we've got Chair at point for the licensing policy and the relevant sections from the policy and the section 182 guidance. There's also some case law as well included in the report, which I know the legal officer will be able to go into further with you in deliberations, Chair. And to remind the panel that consideration on the section 17 of the Crime and Disorder Act comes into play, as does the Human Rights Act, Chair. And within the pack, Chair, you do have the representations from residents and ward councillors that's in support of the review. And you also have in the pack, Chair, the survey that the business initiated, and also their then a number of emails as a result of that other residents have then written in support of the actual in support of RACAS, Chair. Okay. Chair, there I think I will end unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Do members have any questions for Ms. Barrett? No. Does the review applicant have any questions for Ms. Barrett? Premises license holder? No?
Yeah, just one, please.
Yep. Mr. Craig.
Ms. Barrett, 1.4, it says its main activity is the provision for smoking shisha. What is the basis for that, please?
Sorry, so its main activity
is the provision for smoking shisha. The premises.
Oh, that's just through observation. That's just through observation. You're, happy for you to refute that.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions before we move on? Okay. All right. So we will now hear from the review applicant, Ms. Jennifer Barrett and Mr. Festus Akimbo. I'm not sure if he's here at the moment. I can see Ms. Jennifer Barrett. Please be aware that you have a collective time of 20 minutes to speak. Please be clear and succinct. You may now introduce the review application. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair. I'd just like to make a couple of quick points. Number one is that I'm having a few technical issues, so I'm not able to go on camera. And number two is that I'm representing both Festus and the nuisance team. So Festus won't be here to speak today.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Yeah, you can continue.
Thank you. So firstly, I'll just set out that the noise and nuisance team are responsible for the investigation and dealing with licensing issues as well as noise and nuisance. So we investigate issues under the Environmental Protection Act 1990, as well as noise, nuisance and ASB associated with licensed premises. I just wanted to clarify that. So excuse me. So in our capacity as the responsible authority, we have investigated complaints made in respect of operations undertaken at RACAS and Green Lanes.
Ms. Barrett? Ms. Barrett, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, sorry, I'm having a few technical issues.
That's fine.
Right, so
if you do have any further technical issues, you can also use the chat function if you do. But yeah, I'll let you continue.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Ms. Barrett, the last thing you said was RACAS at Green Lanes, issues undertaken at RACAS at Green Lanes. That's the last thing you said.
Wonderful, thank you. So the council has received 21 complaints since March 2022 alleging noise nuisance from the premises. In response, noise and nuisance officers have attended the premises and made observations at street level about public nuisance. We have also made observations within the premises in relation to complaints about noise and nuisance from the rear and the use of the rear as a shisha shisha.
Ms. Barrett?
Sorry, I've lost it again. Apologies. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
sorry, I keep losing connection. Apologies. Yes, so we have, in response to complaints made about the shisha area at the rear, we have visited on a number of occasions. We requested a review of the license because we had observed a number of breaches of the license in itself, in that the external area is used routinely after 9 p.m. We also initiated a review of the license following recent breaches of the Health Act, whereby the rear area was enclosed at the time that shisha was offered to customers. And in consideration of the number of complaints made from residents, we determined that the only appropriate next step was a review of the license. The other point I would make is that we made attempts to liaise and mediate with the license, the DPS at the time. They had expressed concerns in October that they were unclear about what was required of them in terms of the use of the rear area. We issued in writing how our understanding and an explanation of what we felt the rear area was. And in a follow-up, as part of their application for a variation, they had said that they felt that that condition was difficult to comply with. We feel that we have no option but to request a review of the license in order to regularise this step. In the 27th of July 2021, it was already recognised by the committee that there were going to be issues with the use of the rear area, and as a result, in recognition of that, the committee considered that the outside space needed to be managed in a better way. And also, in response to concerns raised by residents, there was an additional clarification about the external areas and the use of the external areas in the amendment to the license. Residents have advised that this has a seasonal element, so complaints have a seasonal element. So we have not received any complaints throughout December, but expect an uptick in the summer months as the rear area is used. Noise and nuisance officers have attended on a number of occasions and had some difficulty in accessing the premises. So we have also had issues in terms of visits made in response to complaints and trying to establish whether the rear area was being used for licensable activities or not. We also requested CCTV footage for 3 periods whereby officers had witnessed unlawful use of the shisha area, but haven't received those. So what we're asking the committee to consider is a reshaping and reconfiguration of 3 conditions in the license in order to ensure that we can better enforce for breaches of the license in the event that they occur in the future. One specific condition that we want amended is the condition which outlines the requirement for the DPS to provide CCTV footage to the police. So we're requesting that the committee consider inclusion of any authorised officer, which would mean that our officers, noise and nuisance team officers, would be able to request that as part of a licence condition as well. In addition, we have requested that the rear shisha area and mezzanine is closed and cleared of customers by 9 p.m. We appreciate that that's already within the licence, but have stressed the need for this to be amended so that it includes the provision of adequate notices for display to inform patrons of this requirement. The DPS, in our conversations with them, has said that they have struggled to clear the area because their patrons don't fully appreciate the need for that area to be closed at 9 p.m. So they've struggled to enforce that element of the licence. We're also looking at we'd also request that the committee consider the restriction of the use of amplified live or amplified recorded music in that rear courtyard area at any time, and that all other licensable activities authorised by the licence in that area are to cease by 9 o'clock.
Miss Barrett, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Did you want to continue or have you finished?
Oh, I do have, I apologise, but Amir is actually a member of the Noise and Nuisance team who visited the premises on an occasion. So I'm just going to introduce him in the event that I'm struggling still with my my connection. He's able to jump in and answer any questions about noise and nuisance as well.
Okay, thank you, Miss Barrett.
Thank you.
Okay, so I assume you have finished your representation?
I have.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Okay, so do members now have any questions for Miss Barrett or Amir? Yes, Councillor Da Costa.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Miss Barrett, for your report. You've mentioned, and the papers mention a number of times, that there was difficulty in accessing the premises. Could you give some examples of the difficulties that were faced when accessing the premises?
So the premises is served daily by 2 security officers who stand on the pavement outside sliding doors which serve the premises. Officers have approached the premises, usually in response to a complaint or proactively in response to as part of our investigative process, and have requested access, but the doors are always shut. And so the security SIA officers have held them at the door while they obtain the manager. We have explained on a number of occasions that we have powers of entry, that what we require and when and how and why we need access. And there have been 3 recent occasions where that has occurred.
Thank you. Chair, if it's okay, should I continue on with my questions? Oh, Chair, you're muted.
How many further questions do you have?
4.
4. Okay, if you could just keep it brief, please. Thank you.
Yep, I'll keep brief. Okay. What reasons has the licence holder given for not granting access to CCTV footage?
They have not specified. Actually, that's not completely true. Initially, they had not specified. When we chased again, they had said that there was a malfunction with the CCTV system stroke equipment, and they were unable to provide it.
Okay. From your ongoing interactions with the premises, what has been the approach of the licence holder and management?
Sorry, could you repeat that? That cut out.
Of course, apologies for that. From your ongoing interactions with the premises, what has been the approach towards officers by the licence holder and management?
I would say that generally positive. However, I think there is a level of frustration that is expressed by the DPS, if I can be so bold. Certainly when we have revisited in relation to the use of the rear area after 9 p.m, it's been met with some challenges in that there's this suggestion that they don't really understand or appreciate the reason for it, or that it's being discussed and considered, and they will think about what they need to do in relation to the use of that area. So yeah, I'd say it's mixed. I would say it's mixed. So officers have attended in relation to their duties and been met with challenge. Proactively, when we've arranged meetings, they've been positive.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Chair, that's everything from me for now.
Thank you, Councillor Da Costa. Before I move on to Councillor Buxton, Amir, I see your hand up. Is it a point of clarification?
Good evening, all. Yes, just to add to what Jennifer explained, the DPS and management are very polite, but unfortunately, the action sometimes, as Jennifer mentioned, the security at door, although they're not directly saying you can't go in, because I have personally explained to them that we are authorized officers, we need access. They physically hold on to the sliding door or try to put themselves there, physically between the door and us trying to get in. And the other point I want to mention is that when I spoke personally to the DPS, my statement is, I think is with Jennifer. I do apologize. I don't have access to my computer here. I moved to the new place. There is not Wi-Fi. I'm talking on the phone. But it is the date there. The DPS literally mentioned to me that when I explained that, because he was trying to get in the technicality of the license and the time, and also that the 50% open or not, I raised the issue that closing that rooftop and smoking inside is just against the law, regardless whatever details is within the license. And he mentioned in response to me that I think it was September or October, that first of all, that every shisha bar works that way. And when I mentioned, well, I am dealing with your case and I'm here at the moment, then he said that, so what he's trying to do is for the next 3-4 months till Christmas time, he's going to continue the way he's doing it. By then, and when it's quieter, when it comes January and there's a less number of customers coming in and the business is quieter, probably he's going to consider withdrawing the shisha from the menu. And when I mentioned, so you can't go continue doing, something, this is an offense, he said, well, that's the way I'm going to do the scratches to that point, which to me, as I said, although he's very polite but trying to be civil, but mentioning that to me directly, clear, point out that how they're trying to prolong this case so they can achieve their objective. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. Councillor Buxton.
Thank you, Chair. Just following on from your final point, Ms. Barrett, where was the lack of clarity in the condition on the previous license that the applicant wasn't clear on?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I missed half of the message. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. So you spoke about the clarity, the applicant not understand the DPS, not understanding the clarity of the condition. How exactly did that come about? It seems, if you could expand on that slightly.
Yeah, so it was raised in October. It was raised previous to October, but in October we said we are continually observing breaches of the 9 p.m. curfew for the use of the rear area. And that's when they raised the specific issue that, well, what is meant by the external area? And as a result, the council wrote to them and said, our understanding of the external area and the outside smoking area are two different things. So the license includes a provision for use of an external area for smoking and how they would ensure that there's no public nuisance or disturbance from the use of an external area for smoking.
Chair, sorry, I have one follow-up on that, and
That's
it was one that
that's fine.
also might be for Ms. Barrett, the licensing officer, as well.
Yes.
So on page 60 of the agenda is a plan of the premises, and that, again, now I understand where the lack of clarity was, because one of my questions was, what exactly is the outdoor bit, which is the shisha lounge?
So with the outdoor area.
So the bit that we are talking about.
So
the outdoor shisha area is at the rear of the premises. However,
bit is the bit there's
sorry, Jennifer. I think Jennifer, I would just allow Dahlia to finish her answer, and then I'll get to you, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So the outdoor shisha area is at the rear of the property. However, yes. However, the fact that there is a retractable roof that, if in effect, encloses that area, in breach of that particular legislation, is part and parcel, or adding to the issues here, and how somebody sees it as being an external area or not. But obviously within the law, within the Health Act, it needs to be 50% open at all times.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Jennifer Barrett, Ms. Jennifer Barrett, did you want to clarify or add anything to that question?
No, I think Dale covered it ably. The only point I was going to make is that we recognise that we've mentioned shisha quite a bit, and we recognise that it's an unlicensed activity. It's not a licensable activity. However, it's the offer of shisha, and that is incongruous with the other requirements of the license. So either the rear area is enclosed, and then they can meet the requirements of the license, or the area is closed at 9 p.m, which means they can meet the requirements of the license. However, if they offer shisha in the rear area with the roof closed or partially closed, then they breach a different element of legislation, and action is being taken, enforcement action is being taken in relation to that, separate to this.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Do members have any further questions? Okay, I've just got a question that I need clarifying with regard to one of the visits on the 5th of March.
Yes.
Yes. I can see that it was done approximately 19-22 hours, and it states that one of the issues is unlawful use of the external rear area. But having seen the condition in the license, I understand that that's meant to be closed at 2100 hours. So I just want an explanation or clarification how that is an unlawful use of external rear area when it's within the time frame.
I apologise, Chair. I believe that's a typo. You're absolutely right in that 1922 is not 9 p.m.
Thank you so much. And also, just one last question. When the noise levels were taken, I can see that it states that there was loud music at a few of the visits. Just wondering whether inside or outside any measurements were taken to determine the levels of the noise.
So in our determination of public nuisance, we make observations at street level in the vicinity of the premises, and also in the vicinity of the residential property from where the complaint has been made. The council also receives anonymous complaints, which we still attempt to investigate by approaching the premises and seeing what we're able to observe from street level. In addition, when we're investigating complaints about nuisance, we also determine whether it's a statutory nuisance by visiting a premises and listening and determining how a resident is affected in their home by the issue that they're reporting. In the instances outlined in Festus's representation, the majority of our observations have been public nuisance from street level without the need to measure noise. So we don't specify decibels, we simply determine whether it's going to give rise or is giving rise to disturbance, and whether that disturbance constitutes a statutory nuisance or a public nuisance.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Okay, so I'll move on to questions from the premises license holder and supporters for the review applicant. Any questions?
Yes, please, Chair. First of all, I just want to be clear, Jennifer. You've mentioned three things that you're looking for in terms of the condition around the, I think what was previously described as the outside area and now is being described as the rear area, shisha lounge, and also around the CCTV. You mentioned about disapplying regulated entertainment, which presumably you're referring to via section 177A of the Licensing Act. That wasn't mentioned in the review application. Am I right? The 177A part?
Yes, you're right. Yes.
All right. And you've not, I mean, and you've also said you've not had any substantive complaints this year. Is that correct?
In 2023, you're right. Yes. This year, yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand why that. I mean, I'm having to deal with that now. I've not taken any instructions on that. It wasn't in the review application. I'm just trying to understand why it wasn't in there.
Ms. Barrett?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. That's. I believe it's an omission on our part.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yes, please. You've seen, Jennifer, that there are a number of residents in support of the premises.
Yes. Yes.
Would it be fair to say that was somewhat unusual in a review application that involves nuisance?
I couldn't comment on that. I couldn't comment on that.
Okay. Have you spoken to any of those residents?
We speak to residents who've contacted us, and no, I haven't spoken to any of those residents. No.
Thank you. Third question, the timing of the review, I just want to be clear on this.
Yes.
Yes. Has this got anything to do with the variation application that was submitted?
The review, I think it's just, in my opinion, it's just the timing of events. So the Health Act breaches that we observed late last year were just another indicator of non-compliance in our view, and we thought that the best way, in light of the fact that as in their submission for their variation, they said that they were struggling to comply with that condition, we felt it appropriate to review the license and look specifically at that issue and see if that, because it's pointless constantly returning to a premises, identifying non-compliance and not having an element or an option for compliance. We weren't able to secure compliance.
Mr. Craig, just before you move on, just because of timing factors, how many further questions do you have?
One.
Okay, that's fine.
Can I just, because I didn't actually get an answer to the question, Jennifer, the question was, is this anything to do with the variation application? I just need a simple yes or no, please.
No.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, Amir, hi Amir, I don't think we've met. Hello. Just a quick one. You've described, are you there, Amir, by the way?
Hello.
Hi Amir, hello. You've described the rear area.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. You've described the rear area as a shisha area. You've been in that area, have you?
Yes, twice.
You've seen that people dine in there?
Yes.
Extensive dining in there?
Yes, it was.
Would you accept that?
Yeah.
Okay. So would it be fair to say it's not just a shisha area, is it?
No, but my problem, point that I raised with
You've
TPS
answered my
was
question,
that,
Amir. We're pushed for
Mr.
time.
Craig, Mr. Craig, if you could just stick to the question and answer rather than coming to cross-examination.
Chair, I was actually saying to him here, he's answered my question.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I misheard.
No, that's fine.
Apologies.
Don't worry. I wasn't trying to pin him into a corner. I've done enough cross-examination for one day today. Don't worry. I did it earlier on. So I'm done with my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Apologies. I misheard that.
All right.
Okay. No, any further questions from anyone else? Okay. Yeah, I'll move on now then to, we will now hear from those who have submitted representations in support of the review application. We'll have questions after the supporters have spoken. If each speaker can briefly introduce themselves before you speak, please remember you have a collective time of 10 minutes, which is around 3 minutes each. So firstly, we'll start with Councillor Brabazon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's really rather depressing that we have had to come back here again. For me, this is the third time that I've had to come to make a representation about this restaurant. I represent Haringey Ward, which has restaurants galore, licensed premises galore, and I haven't in my 6 years as a councillor had to come back 3 times on the very same issue pertaining to a licensed premises. In my experience, I've never had so much correspondence and complaints about the premises in my ward. So it is with regret that I have to come and support this review. And in my experience also, it's quite rare that the responsible authority brings a review. However, if the applicant and if the licensee simply will not comply with the conditions of their licence, I fail to understand what other levers the authority has beyond bringing a review and asking for the review to be considered and for the committee to take some more serious action in order to get compliance. The RACUS, when it was established, I'll just take you in the papers, I think it's in the minutes of the meeting of July 27, which is around about page 107, page 172. I know I haven't got very long, but I would like to draw your attention to this. Mr. Craig, who was there, we've obviously met 3 times over this, Mr. Craig. So I feel like I know you now. You stated that the premises would not be used as a shisha lounge. That's on page 172. And that there would be an option, but that there would be an option for people to smoke. Well, I don't really understand what this means in terms of this extension. It was obvious then when the first application came, and it is obvious now that the whole situation is incongruous, anomalous, a circle that can't be squared. There's a mezzanine where people are smoking shisha. There are photos in the bundle showing shisha pipes, shisha rocks, whatever they are. And although it may have other functions, people may be eating and so on, there clearly is a shisha lounge, in which case the doors and the windows and the roof have to be open, in which case the residents will experience noise and all the other things that come from that, which is why the residents have complained. And if the licensee doesn't understand the conditions of their license, then that is a serious issue. And I'm asking you as a committee to really sanction the RACUS for not complying, for causing such aggravation. You will see in the bundle all the letters from the residents who are supporting the review are individually written. They are personal testimonies. The letters in support of the RACUS are all the same. And there is indeed a sort of urging of this by the solicitor for the RACUS, which I would ask the committee to think is quite a serious matter. I can't remember, I would find the page, but you'll probably cut me off for my time limit. I think this is a very important matter in terms of the value and the weight that you place on the the representations from from residents, and considering that the people in Lawfare
Councillor
Road North.
Brabazon, apologies, we've come to time.
May I just wrap up? Just wrap up and to say the residents in the ward who have supported this review have done so of their own free will, certainly written extensively and from the heart. You would have to wonder, are they all making it up? Have they conspired? Or are they just saying what their real experience is in trying to get compliance? And the fact is that the extension is just a huge anomaly at the back and has caused them enormous grief. So now you have to try and square the circle to regulate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brabazon. Okay, now we'll have Ian Sygrave. Please introduce yourself, and you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Ian Sygrave, the elected chair of the Ladder Community Safety Partnership, the Haringey Ward Police Panel, and the Borough Association of Neighbourhood Watches. Like Councillor Brabazon, I've got to begin by saying that in my capacity as chair of the LCSP, I've been attending these sort of licensing committee hearings for premises in Green Lanes for over 20 years. And the sheer weight of evidence in this review shows some of the worst examples of repeated breaches of a licence which I've seen. This makes it all the more important that firm action should be taken by the committee to prevent yet more breaches from occurring in the future. Indeed, unless firm action is taken now, there is every reason to believe that the licensing committee's own previous decisions will be ignored yet again. A brief look at the existing licence granted in July 2021 and the refusal to grant longer hours in the variation hearing last month make it clear that the licensing committee remains very concerned about noise nuisance from the back addition area. This is why the committee originally stipulated and last month repeated a 9 o'clock closure. Since RACAS reopened last March, all of these concerns about noise have proved fully justified, and committee members can see a catalogue of breaches across 40 pages in this pack, including repeated site visits by enforcement, followed by verbal warnings, written warnings, and warning meetings. The concerns of over 20 objectors, including 2 ward councillors, cover a further 50 pages, and they contain detailed, specific and heartfelt examples of the noise and antisocial behaviour which they've experienced. These are not identical copied letters provided by a legal team, but individual responses from residents who have been suffering and have quite simply had enough. And as we've heard, the council's own noise and nuisance officers have witnessed not just 1 or 2, but multiple breaches last year. Worse still, as we've also heard, they've actually been hindered or prevented from entering the premises, despite their legal right to do so. In their defence, RACAS have circulated an irrelevant questionnaire or survey which does not refer to the review or to the licensing objectives. As such, it has no bearing on the case. However, what does matter is that on the back of this questionnaire or survey, they produced an identical formulaic statement which has been circulated for anyone to copy. You can see this on pages 142 and 143. And the aim of that has been to show whipped up support for the premises. This is in stark contrast with the detailed evidence and example provided in the representations from ward councillors and objectors. So in conclusion, how is this situation in which RACAS being in persistent breach of its licence to be resolved by the current review? Firstly, given the seriousness of the breaches and the constant repetition, regardless of repeated warnings, we believe that the licence should be suspended for a period of time to be determined by the committee. Secondly, we believe that the only effective long-term solution is to deal with the root cause of the problem, namely the back addition, which is still unauthorised by planning. This must be fully sound insulated, which means removing the retractable roof and opening windows. New, sealed, non-opening, soundproof units should then be installed. This will ensure that no noise can escape from the rear of the premises at any time of the day or night in the future, and that consequently residents will once again enjoy the use of their homes and gardens without intrusive noise nuisance from the premises. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sygrave, right on time. Now, Andy Cheetle, you've got 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself and then make a submission. Thank you.
Hi there, Chair, and thank you for that. My name's Andy Cheetle. I'm a resident from Lawfare Road North. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of 30 to 35 local residents and the cross-section of the local community here. We've experienced many issues with RACAS since it reopened in March 22. These issues have caused harms across all licensing objectives, and many harms reflect ongoing breaches by RACAS of its current licensing obligations. We strongly welcome and encourage the review of the RACAS license initiated by enforcement, but do not believe its recommendations go far enough. They do not address all the harms being experienced by residents, and particularly don't encourage RACAS to change its behaviour and comply with its licensing obligations. There's a catalogue of issues and harms which are in the pack, but the key fundamental root cause is to do with the rear extension, as Ian was mentioning just then. Noise escapes from there, and particularly in summer when the windows are actually retracted back. The other observation we got is about the survey that was happening. People feel really annoyed in the way they were accosted in the street and had their questions or feedback, which they were very willing to give, manipulated and performed into a petition and things like that. It was Dale has sort of said that it was rejected, but it's left a hallmark over here. Where do we want to go from here? Many of the harms now experienced were anticipated by the Licence Committee in July 21. Rear of the premises should be closed, cleared of customers by 2100. No noise emanating from the premises. No fumes or odours which should cause a nuisance. Lighting should be directed away from residential properties. None of these are happening. RACAS is not compliant with anything. Our starting point is we want to see RACAS comply with its current licensing obligations, but it's not doing so. How do we get there? First step would be to address the noise from the rear of the premises. All retractable windows and roofs should be shut at all times, and additional soundproofing should be installed. And the use of the rear of the premises should be stopped until soundproofing is installed. This would also help to align licensing and planning approaches to noise management at RACAS. To date, RACAS has shown no intention of meeting all its licensing obligations. It's been in breach from day one, 11 months so far, and rising. This appears to be willful, clear and deliberate non-compliance with the licensing obligations. To show the committee is serious in wanting RACAS to comply, we suggest it should be at the very least suspend RACAS license for a period of time. And if the RACAS behaviour doesn't improve immediately, its license should be revoked. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cheadle. Do members have any questions for the supporters of the review application? Councillor Bucks.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, to Councillor Bramazon, since March 2022, could you give us an approximate number of complaints that you've received about the premises?
Yeah, this will be approximate. I've had several repeat complaints from residents on the road, and I had every time I had the complaints, I then get in touch with the noise team and the enforcement team. I got to the point where I organised a meeting with the noise team because despite the best efforts, we weren't getting any positive changes in the behaviour from the RACAS. So not every single person who has objected here as supporting this review contacted me personally, but representatives from Lothair Road North who then shared what was going on in our communications. And as I said, I did have to call a meeting which myself and Ian went to with the noise team because we were just absolutely getting nowhere. I'm getting nowhere on behalf of the residents to get a change, and that is not because the noise team hadn't visited the RACAS. It is because of repeated non-compliance. I hope that answers your question.
Yep, thank you, Councillor. And to Ian, Andy, or any of the other residents or who are supporting the review, did any of you fill out the survey that RACAS were doing that we have on pages around 162 to 160? Did any of you fill out any of those surveys or not?
Sorry, Andy speaking here.
Yep.
I did I was away the weekend that the survey was carried out, but I have neighbours who were around and who did complete the survey and felt really annoyed with what was happening. You can see it all. We've got a WhatsApp group in the street as well, and so that was peppered with comments about it. It felt like it was a bit of bribery with the survey. There were free meals being offered.
Yep.
And then after that, the following day is getting the proposed email from the solicitor sort of saying, why don't you do this? It's sort of strong encouragement to actually complete the survey and submit it.
Okay.
Councillor Buxton, we've got a hand up also from Miss Pollock. She might want to answer your question. Yes, Miss Pollock.
Yes, I just wanted to say we were away as well in the narrow window that the survey was done, and the timing of it really indicates that the survey was in response to this particular enforcement action rather than any genuine concern about residents, because it was the first we'd ever heard from RACAS. So we were just not here, and we've had no contact apart from that.
Okay, thank you. Going back to Andy, the crux of my question is I want to find out, obviously, all of the responses that we have, or as far as I can see, all of the responses in the papers have been positive of RACAS. Please, someone correct me if that is incorrect. They all say no sound disturbance. I want to know if any of your residents who did fill out the survey, if their responses are included in the surveys that we have in the papers, or yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's difficult to tell because the names are redacted.
Yes, but I guess then my question is, if there is someone who responded negatively to the survey saying yes, there is sound emanating, are there residents that you are aware of who have said yes, there is, to the questions, do you hear any loud noises? Yes. Have you been impacted by any noise coming from RACAS? Yes. Do you have residents who have said that?
Yes, there are residents who said that. They can
in the survey.
Yes, they made comments.
Okay.
There are a few tick boxes. You've seen the survey in the papers here. There are a few tick boxes, and then there's space for comments. Yep. Comments have been made, and then of course ignored because actually that's not what was wanted.
Thank you, Andy.
So,
Ashley,
Chair,
yep. Chair, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry, Miss. Thank you, Councillor Buxton. Miss Potts, I can see your hand up. Miss Potts, you're on mute as well.
So easily done. Apologies. Yeah, I'm a resident of Lothero North. I was there when they came round with this survey. I'm a social scientist, actually. At the moment they started on it, I looked at it, said I'm not engaging with this because I had no idea how they were going to present the information and so on. Of course, I was completely right. But they then tried to, said, come and have a free meal and all the rest of it. And then I just knew that this was something that one should not engage with at all. I must say my suspicions were very severe about this. And then we heard on the WhatsApp group from someone who said they'd filled it in and they got an email back to them from RACAS saying, this is what you said, and it wasn't what they said. They presented it as positive and they had been very negative. So there was something very weird going on with that survey, in my view.
Thank you, Ms. Potts. Do members have any further questions before I move on? Okay. Do the premises license holder and his supporters have any questions for the supporters of the review application?
Yeah, well, excuse me, Chair, sorry, one or two. Hello again, Councillor Brabazon. Hello. We'll have to stop meeting like this.
I was about to say the same thing. We have to stop meeting like this.
Just a couple of questions for you, if I may. First of all, you did talk about people here supporting the review application being here of their free will. Are you trying to suggest the people who are here to support the premises aren't here of their free will?
Not at all. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I only know that the people who have come because they are really concerned about this. And in my experience, when people are really concerned, they make a real effort. But this is the most, this restaurant has caused more upset for people in all my experience of sitting on the licensing committee bar one.
Okay, politician's answer, if I may say. But anyway, thank you, Councillor. One other thing, if I may, the people who have supported the premises, have you spoken to any of them?
No.
Okay.
I don't know who they are.
Andy, I think I know what the answers. Hello again, Andy. I think I know what the answer is going to be to this, but I feel I have to answer it. You've mentioned somebody who says they put the put a negative representation on the survey, but that wasn't deployed. Are you in a position to disclose who that resident is? I have to ask the question.
I'm not going to say who their name is, but if you looked at the application to vary the license, there were some packs in there which included some comments.
Okay, all right, thank you. No more questions, Chair.
Could hello, this is a local resident. My name is Joel Hanley. I was unable to access my microphone when the last question came up. I just wanted to say that we were offered to fill in this survey. When they said, will you fill this in support of RACAS? We said, we've already complained to the council. There's no way we're going to be supporting that. And we got a very dirty look that made us very uncomfortable outside our own home.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. Okay. Are there any other further questions or points of clarification? Yes, Ms. Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a point of clarification. Earlier, Chair, you asked about something on page 22 of the pack. Yeah. You asked Miss Barrett, Jennifer Barrett, about the 232.
No, it was about another time. It was on the, bear with me. It was regarding page, let me just
page
find
14.
Page 14. And it was the 1922 hours that was provided.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move on. We will now hear from the premises license holder. Please be aware that you have a collective time of 20 minutes to speak. Please be clear and succinct. Mr. Craig, please can you submit your representation?
I will, Chair, and I'll do my best to comply with the time that I've kindly been afforded. I'll just deal with, if I may, with the review application. I've firstly got to deal with section 177A, which is the disapplication of regulated entertainment. I would just make a couple of points. First of all, I've just not had the opportunity to respond to that, other than, as you can see, I'm currently in my, I wasn't able to get down to London today. I was hoping to be with my client. It just wasn't logistically possible because I had another hearing today. So I've just not had the opportunity to take any instructions on that. It's been thrown at me. I would just say in the circumstances, given that, firstly, that simply can't be a consideration for you today. Secondly, it's contrary to the ethos of the Live Music Act 2012, which deregulated live and recorded music, and I would just submit that any disapplication of regulated entertainment via section 177A has to be conducted on a much more empirical basis than we have before. As you've heard from Jennifer Barrett about the methodology and the, I guess, the modus operandi that environmental health deployed in relation to evaluating the noise nuisance at the premises in terms of their investigations. And I would just make the point that you'll get legal advice, of course, on this point, but I would just make the point that the section 177A is there really to deal with issues of statutory nuisance where that's been established, and regulated entertainment needs to be removed from a licence notwithstanding the provisions of the Live Music Act. So I'll just make that point because I'm not simply in a position to deal with that, and I don't think it's appropriate that that's being dealt with at this stage. So I make a point in relation to that. In terms of the CCTV condition, no issues taken with that. It seems to me a sensible, proportionate, enforceable condition, and so I do prefer 28 days. It's a matter for you. I just think 4 weeks is a clear. It's less messy. People know then they've got 4 weeks, and I do make the point: if responsible authority is not in a position to retrieve footage within 4 weeks, then it can't be that important what they're looking for. So I just make that point. But I've got a feeling you might leave it at 31, and so be it. I don't think anyone's going to die in a ditch over that. In terms of the condition in relation to the rear area, I don't accept what's been said. The word outside is somewhat nebulous, I would say, in terms of the enforceability of that condition. I did a little bit of a extensive Google search, shall we say. Outside refers to an area that has not only no roof but no walls either. It's for example a car park. Certainly my interpretation of that word. So I think my client on that basis makes a valid point. But I also make the point about that condition is, as it stands now, it says the rear shisha lounge shall be closed and clear of customers. So what it's saying is, even if the roof is retracted, not retracted, whatever the opposite, the roof is closed, not a particularly complicated word, then even on that basis it has to be cleared of customers. So I just make that point. Look, we're in a review situation here. The subcommittee a few weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago now, made a determination in relation to the variation application. I don't think I'm in a position with a review application that I'm going to be legitimately making any submissions about you making the license less onerous. But I do make that point that condition as it stands is wholly disproportionate as it's being proposed, and so I would just invite you to consider the wording of that condition on the basis that I've made that a submission to you. So I'm dealing with the that deals with the review application. I have to accept, and I do accept, that survey. I think the review application went in at a time of year which is not ideal for a licensed business. As you can imagine, it's their busy period. I think the premises was seeking to premises feels that there are, and let me put this out there, and then there are people here to support the premises who can speak for themselves and will speak for themselves. The premises feels that the representations that are in favour of the review don't reflect the full picture in the area, and there are a number of local residents who support the premises, and moreover there are a number of local residents who live very close to the premises, and I'm sure that will be addressed by those who are making representations in favour of the premises, that live very close to the premises, and a number of the people who are objecting live significantly further away, and so the premises, and I think it's common sense that if people are opposed to something, if people have an issue with something, they are much more likely to engage with a process than if they are in support. That's a common feature of human behaviour and human how people deal with certain situations. If they are feel aggrieved by something, they are much more likely to be activated than those that aren't. And what my client was seeking to do, because they felt very strongly that there are a number of local people who are not only supportive of the premises but see it as a benefit to the local community, and they are, some of them are here now, and what they were seeking to do towards the end of December, when we were running out of road, when they've been working non-stop for 3 weeks over Christmas, when, by the way, there were no complaints and haven't been, you've heard, since November. They were simply seeking to garner support for the premises, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think, I'm not trying to do my client a disservice here. Perhaps if I'd been involved in that process more, then it would have been worded slightly differently, because it's correct to say it doesn't touch upon the licensing objectives, but there is no doubt, based on the representations that have been put, and they are generic representations, because again, we're in a position where we needed to get representations in before the end of 28 days. But I felt it was important that people who are in support of RACAS are here today, tonight, to speak positively on behalf of the premises, so that you have a fuller picture than would otherwise have been the case. So perhaps the way that support was gathered up, garnered, may have been a little clumsy, but any suggestion that, I mean, I think my client may have done things differently, but any suggestion, I wouldn't be here today if I felt that the people before you were in any way had been inveigled, or had been brought here in a way that was improper. My personal professional integrity is far more important to me than an individual client or an individual hearing, and so certainly from my point of view, I wouldn't be here today if I felt uncomfortable about those people. And of course, they're here, and they will speak for themselves and give you a broader picture. I make the point, if I may, in terms of the hours. I mean, look, what we're talking about here, it is a premises. It's authorised for licensable activities until 10:30 at night, and that's Sunday to Thursday, and then at 11:30 on a Friday and Saturday, with a closure time of half an hour later than that. If I then invite you, if I may, to turn to the supporting documents. That was submitted. With me, first of all, you can see at pages 2 and 3 number of other premises, and it may well be that some of those making representations in favour of the premises are will wish to comment potentially on one or two of those other premises in the local area. But certainly you can see there, I'm not going to take you through them because I'm conscious that my time is somewhat limited, but you can see there the list of other premises. So the hours at this premises is significantly less than other ones, and of course anyone, I don't think there's going to be any contention here, I don't, based on the last hearing, that you know, it is a busy part of London. It's one of those hybrid areas that has a lot of licensed premises and a lot of late night venues, but also it's absolutely right to concede it's a residential area too. But it is a lively part of London. As I said at the last hearing, my girlfriend is from that part of, well, near enough anyway, from that part of London, and certainly I've had discussions with her about that part of London, and it's right to say that it's lively there. I don't think I need to tell anybody that. I just make the further point that the conditions on a license, and this is, you know, look, what we're here because there is a balancing exercise with regards to the provision of licensable activities between the legitimate interests and needs of local residents and the wider community, and the benefits that a license premise provides. But what we can't be doing here is setting a business up to fail. The business has already said to, and again, I'm referring to it, the papers are in the agenda pack, but they've already said that they were struggling to comply with that condition. And I would just invite you to consider that you can't, and it isn't right or fair that you set any business up to fail with a condition that is so onerous that places such a disproportionate burden on them that they are unable to function. And it's right to say that review application, as it stands in black and white, is simply asking you to impose 2 conditions on the license, one of which is not opposed. And I'm inviting you to consider the length of the retention of the footage. And the other one is accepted. That certainly the term outside area is somewhat nebulous, and you may wish to consider that. But certainly, what I would just invite you to do is to consider that balancing exercise when evaluating that condition. 9.43 in the Section 182 guidance is clear on responsible authorities, and what some of the local residents here are inviting you to do is to go further than what Environmental Health have suggested, through the prism of a number of positive representations in favour of the premises. So I would certainly invite you, and it absolutely would not be proportionate in any way or appropriate for you to go any further than has been suggested on the face of the review application. It was Councillor Brabazon did raise the issue around what I said, I think it was back in 21, about this not being a shisha lounge. I do recall saying that. Perhaps I should have. Maybe I did. I mean, look, I can't remember the exact wording I used, and it may be that I did expand upon that and it wasn't minuted, or I didn't expand upon it sufficiently. But just to make it clear, shisha is a part of the business, but it is certainly not central to the business. It's a significant part, I concede that, but this business is a restaurant. You only have to look. If I just invite you in the supporting documents, page 4, within that. Chair, I think I've got 5 minutes. Is that correct? Yes, I can see you nodding.
Yes.
Thank you. You can see there. This is. I mean, look, I've been there. One of the reasons I'm as overweight as I am is I deal with a lot of very good restaurants in and around the country, who always offering me food whenever I go there, and occupational hazard, I'm afraid, and I would say the food there is excellent. It's superb. The quality of meat is fantastic. And so to suggest this place it can be characterised as a shisha lounge is simply wrong. It is a restaurant that offers a shisha as part and parcel of it. It's you can see from the photographs that are contained within the agenda pack that it's been fitted to a very high specification. This is not some, shisha lounge for me is a business that is almost wholly and exclusively there for that purpose. That simply is not the case there. So hopefully that clears up, Councillor, your question and concerns around that. I just make the point. This is, and obviously we have very easy for people to. Reference has been made to the nature of the emails that have been sent in. I just want to stress that was simply a means when we had people who wanted to support premises, that they would have a vehicle to do that by making relevant representations within 28 days. What I would say is it is highly unusual for a review application to be met by a significant number of representations in support of a premises, and I would just add to that, it's even more unusual and rare in my experience that those people have take time out of their day, out of their evening to come along to a hearing and to offer their support. And so I'm going to let those people speak for themselves. But what I understand the position to be, and I expect that they will touch upon this, is that in terms of their proximity to Rakas, a number of the people that are here live very close indeed, and I would just invite you on that basis to consider what they say very carefully, and deploy and attach weight to what those residents say as part of the balancing exercise that I know that you'll undertake when evaluating this review application. So from that point of view, I'm just going to, because I'm not with my client, can I just please check? I have had some just bear with me, see if I've got anything from my client. I don't believe that I do. It just has been pointed out to me by Ray here, actually. Person who sent the email to the council has actually said no to the fact that they were hearing noise. I think it's right to say, I think you should probably discount that survey or attach very little weight to it one way or the other. I think it was handled, I have to concede this, it was handled in a way that was probably a bit clumsy. There was certainly, I detected nothing at all sinister in relation to it at all. But what you do have is representations by local residents in support of Rakas, and I would just invite you to listen to them. And I think, give or take, Chair, I'm about there, aren't I? I can't hear you, Chair. You're on mute. Sorry.
Just over a minute. So if you wish to say anything else in that time.
Well, it's a limit, not a target, as a bank manager said to me once about my overdraft. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Do members have any questions for the premises licence holder? Yes, Councillor Buxton.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. I won't go into the question about the survey. I think you have cleared that up, and we will not lend a lot of weight to it because it's, as you said, there were some problems with it. What I do want to ask you about is the soundproofing situation on the rear area, the area that we are focusing on. So how well is that soundproofed, both with the retractable roof open and with it closed as well?
I will let Gareth answer that substantively in a second, but my understanding is that there has been some soundproofing works undertaken since the autumn. I know Gareth will be able to clarify that with a bit more accuracy than I, and that may go some way to explain. I have to concede, obviously, the situation at lots of licensed premises is different in the summer than it is in the winter. But notwithstanding that, we are in a position where the review application was submitted, or what was it, beginning of December, a couple of months ago, and it may be that will cast some light on it. So, Gareth, can you just explain the position with regards to the soundproofing, please?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Councillor. I have the proof of the invoices as well, the soundproofing for around the shop, like in restaurant, and also rear side as well. So like I got it from the big company, which is soundproofing company, and when the roof, retractable roof, which is have already inside the soundproofing. So, and when the people start smoking, we just open the roof. And when they're not smoking, because most of the time they eating food, so like
Gareth,
as you can see, like after November, there is no complaint as well, because like yes, Duncan gone.
No, Gareth, I was just going to ask, can you just explain or just let the members know when was that work undertaken? Because I don't think you've said that.
After the summer, it was like October. Yeah, extra. It was already some, but I done it after October. I done some more extra. So
Don't know if that assists Councillor Buxton. Thank you. I'm getting a thumbs up. That's always good.
Councillor Buxton, any further questions? Okay, Councillor Da Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Craig, for your contribution. I will try and cut down. Luckily, with regards to survey, you took out 6 questions I had, so you've reduced the questions, which the chair will be very happy about.
Well, it's part and parcel of the job, Councillor Da Costa. Yeah.
I wanted to come on a point that you've sort of touched on and Miss Jennifer Barrett mentioned with regards to the reason why the rear area, which let's just call it the rear area, was in use beyond the time permitted in the licence, was that the licence holder struggled to explain the reason to not tenants, patrons, I'll use that word.
Yes.
Struggle to explain the reason to patrons why the area couldn't be used after 9 p.m. In your view, should a premises license holder be able to explain to clients which areas of a venue should and should not be used?
I don't think, and I'll let Garrett follow up with my response. I don't think that was what was said. I think what was said is that it was difficult to get people to move out of there, and I think it's fair to say 9 p.m. as a curfew. I think the expression herding cats has been deployed previously, not in this hearing, but it isn't always. And I think that's what the premises was saying, not so much that they're having difficulty explaining to people. But Garrett, you might want to just clarify what I've said. I don't want to be painting a misleading picture.
Hi, you're right. Hello, Councillor. So basically, the problem is like when the licensing officer visit my restaurant, my premises, I explain them as well. Like, where is my where does it show is a garden and you can use till 21 p.m. So I explain them as well. Like, you know, on my application, as you can see over here as well, with the red line, is 1 unit. I think you got it there as well. So
red line
like is a 1 unit. So I try to explain to Jennifer Barrett this as well. Like, you know, as you can see on my plan, on my license is a 1 unit. So why do I need to take the customer 21 p.m. like to out? And also 53 people, the employees working for me, and I'm in restaurant business for 20 years. And you know, like the customer, when I give them a bill, so I need to wait till they pay, you know, like, you know, I can't tell them like, you need to pay, hurry up, it's 9 o'clock, you need to leave my premises. So it's a fine dining restaurant, so it's not professional when I do this.
Is that?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor.
So I think the last bit, because I think some of my questions have been answered, and I think will be answered in the next section. The rear area is the requirement for it, also the use of it is partially for fine dining, partially for smoking various ignitable products, cigarettes, cigars. Actually, to quote you, Mr. Craig, in the meeting on the 27th of July, cigarettes, cigars, and shisha. And as has been mentioned a number of times, the Health Act states that it has to be on an open area, i.e. more than 50% open, the retractable roof.
Well, at the point people are.
Yeah, at the point people are inhaling the various things. In the various reports from officers, that hasn't always been the case, so that roof has been opened. So the question is that is set in law that we have to do that when people are smoking in an area. What is the reason why the roof hasn't been open when people have been smoking?
I don't think my client, Garrett, do you want to just respond to that? I think you need to respond to that directly, but I don't think my client accepts that there was smoking at. Garrett, do you want to respond to that? I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, please. Sorry.
Yeah, the back of the premises, it was open, but you know, when they came up, I showed them as well. Like it was open like 50%, but they said it's not 50%. So just I explained them as well, it was open. when they came, like many times.
Okay.
I mean, look, my client is aware of the legal responsibilities in relation to that. I'll say that, but it would be definitely not to. So there may have been some, I don't know, there may be some dispute whether 50% was being deployed or not. But your observation about the legal requirements in relation to smoking is irrefutable.
50%. So when they come, how can they vary is 50% open or not? They just come for like 10 seconds. They just come in, they look, and they leave.
I think we've got Amir who might make a point of clarification. Amir, is this a point of clarification? I can see your hands up.
Yes. Yes, on 2 occasions personally, when I visited the premises, which I have the written statement as well. On both occasions, the retractable roof was closed. The area was full of customers while they were all having, majority of the tables having shisha next to them, that inhaling, and I saw some people even using e-cigarettes, vape. And I raised that issue while I was standing at least about 4 to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. I was there. And I visited again at night. Then after I had that conversation and I raised the issue and I gave him a verbal warning, I revisited the venue on I visited Friday, and I believe it was Sunday again. Once again, it was the same situation. The raise that Mr. Garib just brought up, that he said, yes, I have to wait for them to pay. It's a bit cold. I explained to them, if you're supposed to close at 9, then you can stop serving shisha before 8 or 7:30. So as the same way the kitchen works, that you get the last order, you can do same thing for the shisha. Nevertheless, as I said, I'm just raising the point that Mr. Garib mentioned. There was a discussion and kind of clarification about the 50%. Clearly on my both occasions when I visited the venue, the roof was completely closed off and there was no doubt about it, and I observed it clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett, I see your hands up. Is it something that you wanted to add before I get the applicant to address that point?
No, it's about a separate issue.
Is it something just to clarify this point, or else I'll wait for you to come when I ask for the clarification points? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Mr. Craig, Mr. Garib Toprak, did you just want to clarify what was just said by Amir?
Yeah, just for the Amir, does he have any proof like it was the roof was closed? And also when he came, we had a little argument with him because he tried to run to my shop, inside to my shop, and there was a whole family, kids, mature people that was eating a food. So it's a fine dining restaurant. I stopped him. I said, like, why are you running inside? Just first, I am an owner, talk to me, and let's go inside together. And we went together. So does he have a proof, like if the roof was closed?
Ms. Barrett or Amir, was there any proof? If you can just clarify that before we move on to further questions.
Of course, Chair. I have begged to defer with Mr. Garib. Mr. Garib, the first night was not there. His younger brother was there. He introduced himself as the manager. On the second night, I never had on the second night, Mr. Garib appeared when I attended on Sunday, and my main communication was with his younger brother. Further down, when I was half the conversation, he responded to a couple of questions, contributing to the responses that his brother was giving to me. I'm a professional officer. I never run. I had a bit of, as I said, there's security started to stop me going in by barricading physically with his body. Nevertheless, I managed to walk through because he opened the door for the 2 female customers to leave. So I walked there. There was no running. There was no acting as if something trying to change the mood and ambience of the fine dining restaurant. I was just there. I stood there, have a look around, observed what I had to observe. And then for the conversation, I even suggested that let's have the conversation outside. So after observation, we walked outside. I even conducted my conversation outside. So Mr. Karib, with all due respect, and the first night you were not there, and the second night when I was talking to your younger brother, then after about 5 minutes, you joined our conversation, which both night, as I said, it was my suggestion that we have the conversation outside about my visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir.
Amir, were you wearing a body cam that night?
Yes, I was wearing a body camera.
Thank you.
All right. I'll go back to Councillor Da Costa, who probably has a few more questions, and then I'll raise a few more questions after that. So, Councillor Da Costa.
Yes, thank you. And actually, it's very useful, the point that just raised now by Mr. Garrett. Why was an officer who was conducting lawful right to enter premises not allowed in, and why do you not want them in there, regardless of people dining or not?
Well, he wasn't refused entry. He did get entry. You're asking me to answer on behalf of the door security that were there. And it may be that, Garrett, you could potentially involve yourself, but my understanding is on a couple of occasions, I think there's just been people on the door staff have perhaps not been clear about the authority of the people who turn. But there's never been an occasion where they've not been allowed into the premises, Councillor. That's never been the case. Garrett, I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Hello, Nick. Yeah. The council just told me they put the security my restaurant. So when I apply for the license, and I've done my job for 7 days. And also Mr. Amir, the officer, when he came, he was on the mask. And on the both time, I was there. So I think he forget it. He had a camera. That's why I was asking, does he have a proof? He had a shoulder camera. He can put it on. So I was there on the both time. So I say to him, like, you with the corona mask, it's all closed. And I say to him, you need to just open your mask and show your ID and you can come in. And that's what I've done. I take him inside, but I tried to push my securities. He tried to run the inside restaurant. I was there on both sides and he had a camera with him. And security done their job. They have to ask for the ID to everyone. Because my customer is over 20. Like, for the shisha, for the restaurant, for the backside, is over 20. So I don't accept under 18 or under 20s.
Councillor Da Costa, any further questions?
Last question. I just wanted some clarification on the non-supply of CCTV footage, please. I just wanted to hear that from the license holder, please.
Yeah, there was a technical issue with was it with the hard drive, Gareth? Is that right?
Yes. When they came that time, I'll show it to Mr. Jennifer Barrett to email. I'll print it out and I handle to her. I said, I have a problem with the technical issue. I couldn't put my password to open my CCTV. It's been recording and she's got all the proof. I write it down with my CCTV company. Like I have a problem with the opening my password because I forgot my password to open the CCTV. And they replied me, the CCTV company, there was a technical issue. They're gonna come like as soon as possible. And Miss Jennifer Barrett, they got to all the details. So it was on 5th of October. Yeah, 5th of October. With the EFE Fire and Electrical Limited Company, they got all the proofs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have just a question to ask because Councillor Da Costa, you've answered you've asked most of the questions I wanted to clarify. In terms of, I remember Miss Jennifer Barrett mentioned as part of the recommendations, it wasn't in the papers, but she verbally mentioned the having a restriction use of amplified recorded music, and I just wanted to get the applicant's views on that recommendation. And also in terms of the shisha, is it something that is long term, will be a long term kind of activity, or I know it's not a licensable activity, but something that would be used in the premises in future, or is the premises considering not to have any shisha in future? What would the impacts be on the business not having shisha? So I just wanted to know those 2 points.
Garrett, you can answer the second point because it's an operational issue, and I'll respond to the first point. I've been practicing now for 10 years. I think it's fair to say I probably do more hearings like this. I'd certainly do as many hearings like this as this.
Shisha is an ancillary.
Sorry, Garrett, can I just answer that point, please?
Hello. The shisha.
Mr. Toprak.
Just turn your microphone off for a second, Garrett, please, and I'll let you respond about the shisha thing. All right. So I've been doing, I've been doing hearings under the Licensing Act, review hearings for 10 years, and I'm not doing this to be boastful. I'm just trying to give a sense of perspective. I do probably more of these hearings than anybody else in the country. Certainly as many I would hazard. I've never been in a situation where 177A has been applied to a review in all that time. I've heard of it happening. I've dealt with appeals where I've followed it up. It's an extremely rarely exercised power. And the circumstances where I've heard it be exercised are situations where there's irrefutable proof of a statutory nuisance within a licensed premises, and it's been deployed on that basis to take away the right to the statutory right of a licensed premise to have regulated entertainment up to 11 o'clock, as long as it's for less than 500 people. And I make that point because it's so unusual for that to be applied. I would submit it does not apply in these circumstances. Parliament had a very clear intention when it enacted the Live Music Act that live and recorded music would be deregulated, because it was seen up to 11 o'clock that was a proportionate way of promoting live bands, and for premises not to have necessarily the authorization for regulated entertainment up to that time. And so I would in the strongest possible terms invite you not to apply that. It isn't appropriate in these circumstances. And I also make the point, it wasn't in the review application, and I've not had the opportunity really to. I mean, I'm doing this on the hoof. I mean, Jennifer's thrown it in. It's not in the review application. She's accepted it's an error that it's not, and so yes, you have full discretion and powers available to you. But I would just make the point in the circumstances that it simply wouldn't be appropriate in these circumstances, and certainly. In the circumstances to which I've referred about the nature of the review application and the narrative within there. I don't know if that's adequately. I think I pretty much I probably took as long answering that question as I did do my presentation. I think so. I think that's probably. I think I have answered your question there, Chair.
Yeah, and also about the shisha. Yeah,
so Garrett, I think Garrett's got to answer that. It's an operational question. Garrett, do you want to just about how you see shisha fitting in your business model going forward? Microphone.
Yeah, hi, Councillor. You're right. Yeah, the shisha is an ancillary for me. So my business model is a restaurant, is a fine dining. As you can see on the pictures as well, my restaurant model is a fine dining. The people are calling and booking the tables. Like I'm on the online as well, like 7 rooms, booking, like all the booking system, like shisha is not important for me. So the main thing.
Hang on, Gary, you need to clarify this. You say it's not important. I mean, it is part of your business model at the moment, isn't it?
It's part of the business.
But would it be fair to say what you're saying is it's not central to your business?
Yes. The main is a restaurant, the food.
So my secondary question then, given that the shisha lounge, well, the area there the windows have to be opened at the moment because of the Health Act, because when there's smoking, it has to be 50% open. In that case, if it seems like the shisha is the crux of the issue, because the windows do have to be open. So is there a kind of in the foreseeable future, would it be that in this case to kind of ensure that there isn't any further issues with noise, would it be considered that shisha won't be on as part of the business model, just so that the windows, you know, can remain closed to ensure that there's no any future noise issues? Is that a consideration for the future of the business? Just want clarification.
I think I can answer that in general terms. I mean, that's why I think there should be some flexibility on that condition, in order that, you know, should the business move in that direction, that they're not required to clear that area if the roof is closed. But I mean, my client's not got a crystal ball. Certainly at the moment, it's part of their business, and they never sought to deny that. It's not exclusively based around that activity, but clearly they want a level of flexibility within the restrictions that are placed upon them.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Miss Barrett, I can see Dahlia Barrett. I can see your hands up. Is it a point of clarification?
It is a couple of things, really, Chair. And I'm sorry. So a couple of things. The query regarding the shisha and so forth. I mean, the Rakas itself, even on the advertisement, their own advertising of the business, Rakas Bar brings the highest quality shisha and best flavors to North London. The restaurant part serves rich and delicious food and drinks selection. So the shisha activity seems to be the leading thing. And can I also just point out, please, that, Chair, I know you're asking about whether if shisha is going to be the you know, a viable thing going forward, but we must bear in mind that the plan that was submitted, and I don't call it the initial hearing, there was the issues around the plan that was submitted, and it had the ventilation system that you find in shisha lounges. That was also part and parcel of the structure of that location. And it's not a matter of windows being open, Chair, it's actually the roof space, because the way the legislation works, the Health Act works, is that it must be 50% open. So if it's got walls and it's got the sides, then the roof must be open when smoking is taking place. It's not just a matter of windows being open in the around structure with a roof. There cannot, you know, that roof space must be open to the elements. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. I'll move on then. If members don't have any further questions, I'll move on to the review applicant and supporters. Any questions for the premises license holders? I can see a few. Miss Barrett, Jennifer Barrett, you've had your hand up.
Yes, it's a requirement for a point of clarification from Gary Paul Duncan about the purpose of the soundproofing that you've undertaken.
I could be flippant now and say so less noise escapes from the premises. Perhaps you could, Garrett, you could perhaps give more specifics on that.
Hi, you're right, Jennifer. Yeah, because of the registered noise, you know, you guys came to me, said there is a complaint, noise complaint, and I done my job. I put the more soundproofing.
But so just for clarification, which area have you soundproofed? Where has this been installed?
The restaurant and the garden. And also I put the limiter as well for the music. I don't do live music. I just record the music and I put the limiter for that.
So the rear external area is an open area that you say you've soundproofed.
It's not always open, Jennifer.
Yes,
yeah,
it's not always open.
That's why I was requesting that.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. I mean,
because most of the time the people doesn't smoke, so they eating food. The shisha is externally, you know, sometimes people are smoking. I'm not like Jennifer, for you as well. I'm not a shisha restaurant. I am a restaurant, so fine dining restaurant. That's why I spent like over £1 million. I wouldn't spend £1 million for the shisha. So I'm doing restaurant business for 20 years now, all my family. So like for the shisha is an extra. So even I don't smoke cigarette or shisha myself. So like people, they eat in their food. Sometimes they want to smoke a cigarette or cigar, and sometimes they ask for the shisha. So I don't sell lots of shisha in my restaurant. I sell food.
Ms. Barrett, has he answered your question, or do you want more clarification?
I just, yes, he's answered the question. I've got a second question, which is just about the,
Just one second, Garrett. What is your wet food split? What percentage of your turnover is food?
80% is a food, like maybe 15 or maximum 20% is a shisha.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Ms. Barrett, what was your second question?
And it was just there was mention of a sound limiter that had been installed. I just wanted to clarify whether that was strictly for the internal restaurant area or also the external area.
It's all area. Because I've got a digital system, so when sometimes some playing music tracks are, the sound is more higher than the other one. So that's why I put the limiter, so it cut off straight away. If it's low, you put it on the, like, for example, it's 50%. When I put the 50%, the music, it comes to the, like, if it's the low music, it comes to 50%. If it's the 60, the new track is going down straight away to 50%. It's a limiter.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett, any further questions?
No, just to be clear that the sound limiter and soundproofing has been installed for when the roof is fully enclosed, fully in place and the area enclosed. Yep.
Thank you.
That's my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. I can see, Moni, your hand is up, but I know that you are speaking in support of the premises. If you can just put your hand down, and I'll come to you when it's time for you to speak.
Thank you so much. No,
Moni, if you can just mute yourself, I'll tell you when it's your time to speak. This is just questions from the supporters of the review application.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Brabazon.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to set the record straight regarding my references to Mr. Craig's comments about the Shisha Lounge in the minutes of the hearing in July 2021. If you turn to page 172, it says quite explicitly that Mr. Craig stated the premises would not be a Shisha Lounge. He then goes on to say that he explained, and I'm reading now, so these are actual minutes, so it's not an error, it's not something which was not recorded at the meeting. He explained the external area would be enclosed but not fully enclosed, and that therefore it would be compliant with smoking regulations. It was stated that the premises would not be a Shisha Lounge, but that there would be an option for people to smoke. Do you not think that this is utterly confusing for both the panel, the committee, to understand what's going on there, but also that it opens the door for the residents to have to suffer noise nuisance, because if it is a Shisha Lounge, the roof has to be open, and that's what the cause of the problem is. And also, I'm not sure, this is not really for you, Mr. Craig, but for your client. In building the mezzanine, it was absolutely the extension, it was crystal clear from the very beginning that this was going to cause a problem, which was why the meeting had to be adjourned the first time, and then we had to come back because the plans were such a muddle. And we have been making these points now through three separate hearings, and it has come to pass. So if it is such a problem, and if your client has not complied, what are residents supposed to do? Maybe someone could just answer that question. What should the residents do? They've tried everything.
Well, I'll make a couple of points. Look, minutes can frequently be inaccurate. For a start, it describes me as a solicitor on 3 occasions. Not that that's the worst thing I've ever been called, but I just make that point. I mean, you say the residents. There are a number of residents here who are in support of the premises. So I think it's wrong to characterise every single resident as being in a position where they are not in favour of these premises. That's why we're here, Councillor, is in order for 3 of your colleagues who are charged with making determinations for applications under the Licensing Act to make a proportionate and balanced determination. So it's a massive for them is the answer to your question, Councillor. You got
I have another question, Chair, if I might.
Yeah,
that's fine. On page 142 of the bundle, there's an email to Dahlia Barrett from a resident regarding an email that they received. And the email is at the bottom of the page from Miss Sucras, and that is the email which is inviting people to send in the standard, the form, the pre-drafted email in support of the RACUS. But you'll see from that resident's email to Miss Barrett that they were concerned that their response may be misrepresented, and they've been asked to provide a standard email. So how can you give the same weight to something which is where a resident has been asked to do that in that format to the comments that have been received on behalf of the review, in support of the review? You will see. How do you, as a barrister, can you give that the same weight?
Well, thank you for getting my job title right, Councillor, at the very least. That's okay.
Well, you've got mine right.
Don't worry,
I
do not get snippy about these things at all, don't worry. Well, that's why we have residents here. As I said previously, I'm conscious that representations any representation only carries a limited amount of weight without the actual words of the individual themselves speaking at a hearing. And the purpose of that, and I hope members that I have sufficiently addressed the process that led to these representations being made. As I've already conceded, it was conducted in a bit of a, I guess, staccato fashion, and it was a little disjointed at times. But I would just ask you to attach weight to what people are about to come and say who've taken their time to come here. So an email of itself, particularly one that is fairly anodyne in what it says, is not going to carry as much force as somebody who takes the time to come to a hearing and speak independently about their views on both sides. So I would respond to that particular point in that way.
Okay, on that point, can I just make a note to everyone that's here, because I can see there has been some messages on the chat function. Please do not use the chat function during the meeting. Please just raise your hands. I understand Rachel Lee had to leave early, so I'll see when it comes to the time whether there's an extra person who is in support of the premises license who they want, if they wish to speak in on behalf of her. But going back now to the questions, Miss Barrett, Dahlia Barrett, I can see your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just to help the panel, really, there's been a lot of to and fro with whether or not it's a shisha or not a shisha, or is a shisha lounge and so forth. So on page point 3.8 of the report, and so apologies, I just realised that my numbers have gone a little bit skew if there. 3.8 and 3.2 of the report mentions that the planning matter, and on page 39 in the report is the actual planning documentation as well. So you will see there, Chair, in the report itself, the actual planning permission for the premises was that it was going to be an enclosed conservatory for fine dining there. But what was actually built was in fact a shisha lounge, and now you'll see on page 39 that the planning department has asked Mr. Garrick to put right the issues that are listed there in relation to the unauthorised shisha extension and the retractable roof and so forth that has actually been put at the premises, Chair.
I have to take issue with this. I have to take issue with this. It's not a shisha lounge. Just because somewhere offers shisha does not make it a shisha lounge. And you've heard from a client 80% of the turnover there is restaurant related. Well, by any objective and logical measure that you wish to apply, that is the dominant activity being carried on from the premises. So it's very easy to ascribe titles to premises, but I think that would be misleading in this instance to describe this place as a shisha lounge when there's so much supporting evidence from the premises that it simply is not. It is a restaurant that happens to provide the capacity at certain times for people to consume shisha. That does not make it a shisha lounge. It doesn't.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Miss Jennifer Barrett, I don't know if it's a legacy hand, but I can see your hand is up. Is it a question?
Apologies, that's a legacy hand.
Okay, thank you. And Moni, we will get to you when it's time for you to speak. Okay, so next is Miss Debbie Potts.
Yes, I just wanted to point a clarification to the barrister about this. I think the explanation was that 80% of the turnover of the entire premises is fine dining, and 20% is shisha, but about 20% of the area of the premises is taken up by the shisha lounge. So I think that you're misleading us there, or perhaps not deliberately, but I don't think, they're not saying that 80% of the area out the back is talking about the turnover of the whole place.
Yeah, about turnover. So nothing misleading about that at all. I asked my client, and that was the answer. And so
yes, but I mean, the thing is that area out the back, which is the huge problem, has been, we've already gone through it all. We've been told that it was originally not said it was going to be used for shisha, but it is being used for shisha, and nobody has ever denied that that Rackus is mainly providing food. It's what's going on in that area is the problem. And yes, you have indeed confirmed what I had thought. I just wanted to check on that.
Thank you, Ms. Potts. I think now we'll turn to the.
Sorry, CouncillorOvat, we've got Ian Sygrave on the line.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Sygrave.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I know it's easy to forget me when you can't see me at the end of the phone.
My apologies.
That's all right. I just wanted to bring us back, really, because I think we're in danger of forgetting a very important aspect in all of this, obviously apart from the noise and the nuisance, which is the scale of the breaches which have been committed by the applicants throughout last year. I think whether residents are supporting or opposing RACAS, they would.
Is this a question, Chair? It sounds like it's a speech to me.
Yes, Mr. Sygrave, if you could just make it brief, just because of time restraints as well. If you can just.
Sure. And so I would just like to ask Mr. Craig what he thinks about his client's behaviour in their repeated breaches. As just the most egregious example of many, if you look at page 29 of the pack, you will see that 2 enforcement officers arrived at about 11 o'clock in the evening, some 2 hours, in other words, after the area was due to close, and it was full of people eating and drinking and so on. And the management were told that they'd committed a breach and given a verbal warning. Now, it was pretty clear that these people were in the wrong place at the wrong time, no doubt about that. And yet, 24 hours later, page 30, next page, same thing happens. The 2 officers come back again, 11 o'clock at night, 10:48 to be precise, and lo and behold, there's a whole series of people eating and drinking in the rear area. I attempted to speak with the manager, but he was argumentative and dismissive. Now, how do you explain that sort of behaviour?
Well, you asked me what I think. I think it was 11 months ago. There haven't been any complaints or any issues around compliance, certainly as far as I could see, since November, which is 3 or 4 months ago. So I think it demonstrates an improving pattern where the license holder is getting to grips with their responsibilities. I deal with a lot of clients, and it's right to say that not everybody can be compliant all the time. What I seek to do with my clients, and what we should all perhaps seek to do, certainly responsible authorities, is to push license holders in the right direction. And I think there's clear evidence of that, actually, in terms of the narrative of this premises over the last 12 months. You picked two examples that are nearly a year old.
Seasonal. In other words, the problem won't occur in the winter months for obvious reasons. Come the spring, I fear that your clients will prove in breach again.
Well, again, we get into a speech here, Chair. Is that?
Yeah, I think we're going to move on. If anyone has any further questions, I assume there isn't any further questions. I think because of time, we need to move on. So we'll now hear from those who have submitted representations in support of the premises. We'll have questions after the supporters have spoken. If each speaker can briefly introduce themselves before you speak. Please remember you have 3 minutes each. Firstly, we'll start with Vasily Abraham. Vasily, if you can please introduce yourself, and then you've got 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Vasily. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. I live at flat 1D on 145. I'm the rear neighbor for Rakas. I'm kind of really confused about what's happening in this meeting today, because as far as I understand, this is about the noise issue from this place. And it's turned into this conversation about what is actually taking place in the premises in terms of what is being sold or not. So for my consideration, what I want to make very clear is that I live right next door. I don't know where these complaints are coming from, how far these houses are, but we have no noise problem with these people. And as far as I can see, in regards to what the council was saying earlier on about public safety and issues regarding nuisance, there is no property, no business on the street apart from Rakas, who has security outside their door, that is maintaining good public relationships, approaching their neighbors. This seems very, very, very awkward to me to hear all this happening, taking place for somebody who has invested so much money into a property in Haringey. I believe there is another restaurant that looks as nice, that attracts customers to our council and borough. And I really do not understand why this conversation has gone so deep down, and it feels so much like they just want to close this business to me. For me, I'm not a professional. I don't understand what's happening between everybody now, but this whole conversation for 2 hours, I've spent 2 hours sitting here listening to everyone here, and it's turned into an argument about whether people can smoke or not smoke. I do not understand why somebody would go to an area of a premises where there's smoking and complaining about smoking. If people want to smoke, they can smoke in this place, in my opinion. Yes, if it's causing problems for neighbors, fine, but I'm the next door neighbor and it's not causing a problem for me. And I think Hassan Aksoy is joined as well. And I live in a separate unit on the same flat, and he's connected, and I believe he supports what I'm saying as well. And to be honest, all these complaints, I really don't understand how anonymous complaints could be taken seriously when somebody's not given their name or they are there complaining about somebody. And all these random visits. I don't understand how somebody's standing outside a property saying, I heard with my ear it was loud. When there's no report, there's no noise assessment, there's nothing in relationship to technicality that describes whether they are right or wrong. So if there's a problem, in my opinion, if I don't get a written, recorded response, reading, an acoustic assessment, there's no weight.
Thank you, Mr. Vasily. It's come to the time. Thank you. Now we'll have Manuela Salieva. You've got just over 3 minutes.
Hello, just I want to say hello to everyone, and I want to apologize from the name from my husband. He's at work right now. That's why he can join to us. But just I want to say I live in this flat, the first floor flat. The restaurant is an amazing place, and really we don't have the problem. I'm mother to the children. Nothing voices or music or any problem with the owners. Really, I'm so proud that I have the restaurant in this area like Caracas. And thank you for them, because really sometimes they hear my kids how they're running or they're playing and everything, but I don't have any problem with them. I don't listen to any music or any sounds or any problem like a bean or smoke or anything else, because my windows always they're open. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for everything. Really, I like this place and I don't have any problem with the owners.
Thank you, Manuela. Thank you, Manuela. I know Rachel had to leave at 9 because she had a separate engagement. Is there anyone here who is also a supporter who wishes to speak? I understand Hassan Aksoy was mentioned. Does Hassan want to speak in her place? Mr. Aksoy?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Mr. Aksoy. Yes, so you've got just over 3 minutes.
Okay. I have problem for the rakkas. Sometimes I hear the music, but not too much. I'm not have complaint. Hello.
You're on mute, Councillor Rofat.
You've got over 3 minutes. You can speak, Mr. Aksoy.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Aksoy. So you can speak.
Yes, I don't have complaint. I don't have problem for the rakkas. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Aksoy.
Thank you.
Do members have any questions for the supporters of the premises license holders? No. Any questions from the review applicant and its supporters? Yes, Mr. Joel Hanley.
Hi there. I just wanted to clarify something. Did we, and this isn't a court, I appreciate, but didn't we ascertain, it was claimed in the last meeting that 145 Lothian Road North is owned by the same people who own Rakkas. I just wanted to clarify if that's true or not. It was mentioned in the last meeting. Is that still the case?
Mr. Toprak, did you want to clarify?
Hi, you're right. Yeah, it's not owned by me. And it's not only 145, I think that's big. The 46 is there, Lothian Road. 48 is there, Lothian Road. As you can see, Rachel is a 46. And I've got the map over here, who is supporting me on the street, Lothian Road. I've got at least like 50 people, 50 houses in Lothian Road.
No, sure. If you offer people free meals, they might agree. That's true. No, I appreciate
yes.
that.
Okay.
Over here, yeah, it's 50 people.
Thank you, Mr. Toprak. Thank you, Mr. Hanley. Is there any question specifically?
Can I speak? Sorry, can I speak? That was
Who's
unfounded.
speaking, sir?
That Vasily here. That was an unfounded comment there. I did not receive any free meals. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for the clarification, Vasily.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Mr. Hanley, can we just make sure that the question is specifically for the supporters that have just spoken? So is there any question?
Chair, it wasn't a question, it was a comment again.
No, it was a question. It was a question.
Mr. Hanley, please. If you can just, yeah, thank you. Can we just have questions specifically for the supporters? Any questions for the supporters?
I have a couple of questions, Chair. Am I out of turn or
No, it's basically for the review applicant. But if there's any points of clarification that you wish to make,
Yeah,
then you can make,
please.
Mr. Craig.
Very briefly, Hassan, Vasily, you've already answered this, but Hassan, can you just let the members know where you live, please, in relation to the restaurant?
No address, please. Just the proximity.
Yeah.
Sorry, repeat that.
Hassan, no address, but can you just say how close you live to the restaurant?
We're basically, this building is literally the rear neighbor. Our garden is neighbors to Rakas.
Right. So would it be fair to say you overlook Rakas? Yes.
Exactly. Yes, I can see from my windows.
And I don't know if is it Mona still there? I think I've got a name wrong actually. Apologies. Is it is it Chair? I'm struggling.
Manuela Salieva.
Are you still there, Mona? Okay, she may have gone. Garrett, just to clarify the position in terms of the people who've made representations in support of the premises, obviously don't give any addresses, but are you aware of where they live?
Yes. As I can see, I write it down, all of them, like who is supporting me, like at least 50 people on the left near road. Like 145, I can give the numbers. 143 is before the Andes.
Don't be giving the addresses out, Garrett.
Mr. Toprak, don't give any addresses, please. Just
okay. So basically on the street, very close.
Mr. Toprak, Mr. Toprak, if you could put down the sheet, please. If you could put down the sheet and just verbally address the subcommittee. That's it.
The questionnaire for the road. So, I spoke to everyone over there. That was me and my sister. I knocked the doors because I want to save my business, and I want to save I want to look after my neighbors as well. I just need to know what's the problem is, and at least.
Okay, Mr. Toprak, if we could just stick to the actual question, Miss Potts, is this a question for the supporters?
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Mr. Toprak, if you can just put yourself on mute so I can hear Miss Potts, please.
Yes, it is a question for the supporters we've heard speaking. I just wanted to ask, first of all, if any one of them could answer if they had emailed to you about this. That's my question. Have they emailed the council about this?
I can confirm that we had that the emails are in the report back here.
I know. What I wasn't sure is whether the people we've just heard speaking were some of the people who sent those emails. I'm not sure if they're the same people. That's what I was asking. So I was saying, some of the people who just spoke, could one of them tell us if did they also write an email?
Well, they would have to.
They would have to.
Good.
Yes.
In that case, may I follow up with a subsequent question? Can they? Did all their emails have exactly the same text? This seems precisely said that this seems extremely peculiar, and I wonder if they can explain how it happened.
It's not
Sorry, I just want to.
Sorry, guys.
I'm sorry if this is out of order. This question, I didn't realize it was going to cause a row. Sorry,
Mr. Toprak. I think Mr. Craig was just answering that question.
I've already addressed this twice, actually. I'm not normally accused of.
I wasn't asking Mr. Craig the question. I was asking the other supporters, the local residents, because I'm a local resident. So I wanted an answer from them, if possible.
Vasily, do you want to answer that?
Sorry, I don't understand what you're insinuating here. So I have no comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on then.
Doesn't know what you're insinuating.
Sorry. Okay, we're going to move on now. Can each party now sum up? And also, if all the legacy hands can also come down now, please. Thank you. Can each party now sum up, starting with the licensing officer, then the supporters that have spoken in support of the review applicant, then the review applicant, then supporters that have spoken in support of the premises license holder, and finally the premises license holder. Please keep succinct. So, Miss Barrett, if you could please sum up first.
Thank you, Chair. As you know,
before you start, Miss Barrett, Chair, just for the security purpose, I'm just going to request to the Chair, should we don't expect, I don't know, but should the meeting go beyond 10 p.m, can I ask the Chair's permission to extend it?
Yes.
Thank you, and I'll hand back to Miss Barrett.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There's no summing up from the licensing officer. Okay.
Thank you. Now the supporters, Councillor Brabazon.
You're on mute, Councillor.
Yes, not anymore. Just I'll be brief. I think that this has been well rehearsed. As I said, we've gone through 3 hearings on exactly the same issues regarding the RACUS, and where we find ourselves is in a situation where the licensee has continued to breach the licensing conditions. We've talked mainly about the noise and the problems emanating from the non-shisha lounge, which is a shisha lounge, which was supposed to be a conservatory, which isn't, and now under planning enforcement appeal, and where shisha is smoked, which is causing the problems for the people who live at the back of the RACUS, where the noise goes to, Lothair Road North in particular. And this is the crux of the issue, that there is an extension to this restaurant which is being used for shisha, which therefore has to open its windows and all the rest of it, which is causing so many problems. There are ancillary problems of waste and rubbish, which are also included in the residents' complaints. And the reason we are here is because the RACUS has failed to comply. So what is the local authority supposed to do in order to get compliance when they have tried and tried? So my appeal to you is to uphold the review, because where else are we supposed to go in order to have the balance and the proportionality between the business and the interests of the residents? If it isn't the central focus of the business, which Mr. Toprak has said is only 20%, there should be no problem with complying with the request of the residents for the extension to be sealed and so on, so that it can concentrate on the purpose of fine dining. And until that is resolved, we will be back here again, because the non-shisha, which is a shisha, which is not a conservatory, which it's supposed to be, is causing all the problems. And this will not be resolved. And I do support the residents' request for it to be soundproofed and all the technical things they've said with Andy and Ian, but also that the licence be suspended to set some boundaries for this business, that it complies with the regulations and the licensing. And if Mr. Toprak's been in the business for 20 years, he should know licensing inside out. That's my representation on behalf of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brabazon. Ian Sygrave, if you could please keep it brief. You're summing up, please.
Very brief by saying that I entirely concur with what Councillor Brabazon has said. She has my full support.
Thank you. And Mr. Andy Cheetle, you're summing up, please.
It's going to sound very similar. I think Councillor Brabazon spoke very well just then and summed up a lot of it. From my point of view, a lot of this is to do with conflict about the needs of different things, between the needs for shisha and having open windows, while at the same time noise management, it requires them to be shut. And it all echoes from that. From me and other residents' point of view, it's the windows being open facilitates shisha, but it also facilitates noise coming out. We suffer the consequences as a result. So I'd like to see actions being taken, suspending of license and all those other things which were being Councillor Brabazon was talking about just now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cheadle. Now the review applicant, Miss Jennifer Barrett.
Hello. So we've requested a review of the licence because of the continued use of the rear area and receipt of complaints. although it's not a licensable activity, the provision of shisha is a material consideration here. And although described as an ancillary to the business, it does, it has the potential to occupy a significant amount of space. The rear area is open for the most part, and therefore measures to soundproof and measures to install sound limiters will be quite limited in their impact and effect. And the only other point I would say is just to request that the committee consider the amendments we've requested for the conditions in relation to the use of the rear area after 9 and in relation to the provision of digital images. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. And now the supporters of the premises license holder, Vasily Abraham, can you please sum up?
Looks like
Vasily?
he might have gone, Chair.
Okay, let me just double check. Okay, we'll go to Hassan Aksoy. Are you there, Mr. Aksoy? Think he's probably gone. Manuela, are you there?
I think they've all gone, Chair.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, applicant, sorry, premises license holder, if you could please sum up.
Yeah, I'll just make the point about the residents. I mean, you know, this meeting started at 7. They've hung around for 2.5 hours, which by any stretch, I'm getting paid to do this. They're not, and I would just invite you that I think if this had been, there's no criticism here, by the way. Someone has to go last, but I think I would just invite you to consider that they have not. Perhaps they've run a little bit out of gas, but they certainly, Vasily, all of them spoke very positively about the premises. They all live nearby, and it would be absolutely contrary to the laws of natural justice that you didn't take their views into account. There are obviously divergent views about this premises, but there have been some perhaps unfortunate suggestions made. There's nothing to support anything along the lines of what's been insinuated by some of the representors. And so I would just invite you to balance those two matters out. I think it would appear from what Jennifer said that the section 177A point isn't being pursued. And so I just invite you, no issue with the CCTV condition. And I would just invite you in respect of the condition regarding the rear area to make that as proportionate as you can, and not to impose a over restricted burden on the business. And thank you everybody for listening and staying this late. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have now come to an end of this item. I ask that all parties please leave the meeting room so that the committee members have an opportunity to deliberate and make a decision on this application. The parties will be notified of the decision within 5 working days of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.